Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to take you through some of my 5-star romance recommendations. These are all books that I think are good for people who want to start reading romance and are just like I recommend in general that I absolutely adored. Okay, so the first one I have is Suzannes Diary for Nicholas by James Patterson. This is one of the first books I read to get back into reading. It looks exactly like one of the books that your mom would have read, and it probably is that old as well. Let me see. Copyright 2001. So this is a very beginner romance. I would say it's really sweet and very romantic, but it's also kind of heartbreaking. I'm going to read the synopsis for you. So, Katie Wilkinson has found her perfect man at last. He's a writer, a house painter, and original thinker. Everything she's imagined she wants in a partner. But one day, without explanation, he disappears from her life, leaving behind only a diary for her to read. This diary is a love letter written by a new mother named Suzanne for her baby son, Nicholas. In it, she pours out her heart about how she and the boy's father met, about her hopes for marriage and family, and about the unparalleled joys of having a baby has brought her into her life. As Katie reads this touching document, it becomes clear that the lover who just left her is the husband and the father of the young family. She reads on, filled with terror and hope, that as she struggles to understand what has happened and whether her new love has a prayer of surviving. This is a very unique love story. It's got the family dynamics in there. Like I said, I read this back in I think 2018 when I was starting to get back into reading after university. So I'm not entirely sure I remember exactly what happens, but I remember absolutely devouring this and reading it really quickly and loving it. Next book I'm going to talk about is Heat of the Moment, which is the first in the Out of Uniform series by Elle Kennedy. I know Elle Kennedy is really known for her off-campus series, but honestly I think this series is so much better. This is not necessarily for beginners, but maybe for people who want to get into more steamy books. It's a novella-sized book. All of them in this series until I think the 5th book, which I haven't read any of the full-size ones, I've only read the novellas. All of them are very short, steamy books, and if you're wanting to dip your toe into those, I think these are a good way of starting them. But I absolutely loved this one. So I'll read the description for this one too. When she overhears Garrett talking to his SEAL teammate, a discussion in which they conclude she's vanilla. Stung, Shelby sets out to show them exactly how unvanilla she is. Garrett can't believe it when sweet, sexy Shelby suggests a wild, sweaty menage. He's been trying to figure out how to ask her out without coming off as a guy who only wants to get in her pants. Her friendship is too valuable to him to risk it. But if a crazy heat wave 3-way is what Shelby wants, then he's ready and willing to give it to her. Once she gets it out of her system, well, then he'll let her know he wants her all to himself. So very, very steamy, very short novella if you want to get into those types of books. Next book is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. This one is a heartbreaker. I feel like a lot of people have read this one now because there was a big movie that was made about it. I don't know if this is necessarily considered a romance, but I guess I consider it a romance. I really like just learning about Louisa or Lou. I like learning about her in the other books more. I think that I'm mentioning the first one, but I think the second and third one are better books. They're less controversial, and you just get to see major character development out of Lou. So I think that I would say probably the second one I think is my favorite out of all of them. But I'll read the description of the first one. So, they had nothing in common until love gave them everything to lose. Louisa Clark is an ordinary girl living an exceedingly ordinary life, steady boyfriend, close family who has barely been farther afield than their tiny village. She takes a badly needed job working for ex-master of the universe, Will Trainer, who is wheelchair bound after an accident. Will has always lived a huge life, big deals, extreme sports, worldwide travel, and now he's pretty sure he cannot live the way he is. Will is acerbic, moody, bossy, but Lou refuses to treat him with kid gloves, and soon his happiness means more to her than she expected. When she learns that Will has shocking plans of his own, she sets out to show him that life is still worth living. So, very, very sad. And check the trigger warnings for this one. I'll let you know that like suicide, death, and sexual assault. I would say those are all trigger warnings in this book. And then if you're looking to get in more fantasy romance, I would say like Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare is a really good way to start. I don't think that you need to read the whole Shadowhunter universe unless you want to understand how all the families connect. Either way, the story is really cute and really fun because it's a fantasy book. If you start with this series rather than going through them all, if you want to read them in order, I would look that up online. The only ones I would say are more beneficial to reading before this is the Infernal Device series, because it follows the mom and dad of one of the main characters, or actually a lot of the parents in this book. This is like follows their kids from the Infernal Devices. This is one of the books that like started off me like really reading during quarantine. So I'll read the description. Cordelia Carstairs is a shadow hunter, a warrior trained since childhood to battle demons. When her father is accused of a terrible crime, she and her brother travel to London in hopes of preventing the family's ruin. Cordelia's mother wants to marry her off, but Cordelia is determined to be a hero rather than a bride. Soon Cordelia encounters childhood friends James and Lucy Horondale, and is drawn into the world of glittering ballrooms, secret assignations, and supernatural salons, where vampires and warlocks mingle with mermaids and magicians. All the while, she must hide her secret love for James, who has sworn to marry someone else. But Cordelia's new life is blown apart when a shocking series of demon attacks devastate London. These monsters are nothing like those that Shadowhunters have fought before. These demons walk in daylight, strike down the unwary with incurable poison, and seem impossible to kill. London is immediately quarantined. Trapped in the city, Cordelia's friends discover that a dark legacy has gifted them with incredible powers, and now forces a brutal choice that will reveal the true cruel prince of being a hero. Yeah, I really love this book. Don't be intimidated by the size. It's something you'll fly through. So, and I do want to say this is a YA book, so it's not steamy at all. And some of the content warnings are alcoholism, blood, death, emotional abuse, grief, violence, homophobia, bullying, and drug use. Okay, and another one to get you, if you want to get into like fantasy romance, is obviously A Court of Thorns and Roses. I think everyone has heard of this book by now. I really, really enjoyed it. But obviously, but I think the third book in the series is probably my favorite. This one's a Beauty and the Beast sort of retelling too. So, when 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows only from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy Tamlin transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right with the fairylands. An ancient, wicked shadow is growing, and Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. Yeah, so I think probably everyone has heard of this one. I do think it's a really good series to start with if you want to get into fantasy romance, but I will say I think this is my least favorite series of hers that I've read. I really like Throne of Glass, but I don't really think that's really romance. This is definitely more romance than that one. And I really like the Crescent City series. I just think that her writing has evolved so much that it's a really great series. And the trigger warnings for this one are violence, death, sexual content, torture, and blood. Next is Dirty Rowdy Thing by Christina Lauren. This is the second book in her Wild Seasons series. I put this one up because it's my favorite, but all of them I think are really good. They are definitely, again, more spice than plot. I think a lot of Christina Lauren's older books are, and if you've read her newer stuff, you would be very surprised to know that these are written by the same people because they're very different books. But I love a series that follows a friend group, and this follows a friend group of people who they all went to Vegas and ended up getting married, and then this is just like them figuring that out. They all, like, most of them I think get an annulment the day after, but they still end up together. So I just think that these books are really fun. Okay, then is Amor and More by Christina and Becca Ritchie. This book is so good and it's so fun. It's about aerial artists and just like performers in like a Cirque du Soleil kind of performance. And I just think it's such a unique story, and I loved it so much that I ended up buying all 10 of the books that Christy and Becca Ritchie that it's really popular, the Addicted/Calloway sisters, because I loved this one so much that I figured I'd end up loving those series. So I bought all 10 books. So that, if that gives you any indication, I absolutely love this one. This one I would say is really good for those of you who want an audiobook. It is free with like an Audible subscription, and it's just like really like the audio's so fun and it's really well done. The best aerial technique won't land 21-year-old Thora James her dream role in Amor, a sexy new aerobatic show on the Vegas Strip. Thora knows she's out of her element the second she meets Amor's leading performer. Confident, charming, and devilishly captivating, 26-year-old Nikolai Kotova lives up to his nickname as the God of Russia. When Thora unknowingly walks into the crosshairs of Nikolai's after show, her audition process begins way too soon. Unprofessional, that's what Nick calls their non-existent relationship, but it's not like Thora can avoid him. For one, they may be partners in the future, acrobatic partners that is, but getting closer to Nick means diving deeper into Sin City and into his dizzying world. Thora wants to perform with him, but when someone like Nikolai attracts the spotlight wherever he goes, Thora fears that she's destined to remain in the background of his spellbinding show. And the content warning: sexual content, alcohol, violence, and blood. Okay, and the next book I have is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This is another one of the books that I read like back in 2018 when I was first getting back into reading, and I think it's a really good one to start with. It's really interesting, it's very unique the way it's told, second chance romance, and it's just very beautifully written. So I'll read the description. To the green-eyed lovebird we met 15 years ago, almost to the day when I stepped into the NYU dorm room next to yours at senior house. You called us fast friends. I like to think it was more. We lived on nothing but excitement of finding ourselves through music. You were obsessed with Jeff Buckley, photography. I couldn't stop taking pictures of you, hanging out in Washington Square Park, and all the weird things we did to make money. I learned more about myself that year than any other. Yet somehow it all fell apart. We lost touch the summer after our graduation when I went to South America to work for National Geographic. When I came back, you were gone. Part of me still wonders if I pushed you too hard after the wedding. I didn't see you again until a month ago. It was a Wednesday. You were rocking back on your heels, balancing on the thick yellow line that runs along the subway platform waiting for the F train. I didn't know it was you until it was too late, and then you were gone. Again, you said my name. I saw it on your lips. I tried to will the train to stop just so I could say hello. After seeing you, all those youthful feelings and memories came flooding back to me. And now I spent the better part of a month wondering what your life is like. I might be totally out of my mind, but would you like to get a drink with me and catch up on the last decade and a half? Yeah. So this book, it's like past and present timelines, and it's really like interesting. I didn't see the twists coming near the end, and I just absolutely adore this book. Trigger warnings are sexual content, toxic relationship, death of a parent, drug use, alcoholism, abortion, addiction, and death. Another fantasy romance book that is more fantasy, definitely more fantasy than romance. It's also a YA, is the Folklore series by Holly Black. I really love Holly Black's writing. I've been reading her for years and I really enjoy this book. I know I'm listing this as a romance, but I want to make it clear that it is more fantasy than romance, because I think that's why a lot of people go into this book not liking it, because they're expecting it to just be a romance, but it is definitely more fantasy and more political drama. The second book I would say is the most amount of romance, I think. Maybe the third book, I can't really remember. But the second or third ones are more romance than the first. And then I have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Again, this is one that I think a lot of people have heard of and probably have read already, but I wanted to include it in here because it's one of my favorite books. And I think it's, I want to say either this or Carrie Soto is my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've read by her. I haven't read, but like, I haven't read them all, so like that could change, but those two I think are my two favorites. This one, I did not see the twist at the end coming, so spoiler, there is a ginormous twist, which I didn't see coming, so. Which I think all of Taylor Jenkins Reid books have sort of that twist ending, which if you like that, you'll probably like her writing a lot. Reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career, Monique listens in fascination, from making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to leaving showbiz in the 80s. And of course, the seven husbands along the way. Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in a tragic and irreversible way. Written in Reid's signature talent for creating complex, likable characters, this is a mesmerizing journey through the splendor of old Hollywood into the sobering realities of the present day as two women struggle with what it means and what it costs to face the truth. Content warnings for this book are domestic abuse, homophobia, death, biphobia, suicide, alcoholism, and abortion. Okay, the lighting has drastically changed because of this. The sun has gone behind a cloud, but those are all the books that I'm going to include in this video. I have many more 5-star reads that I would love to share with you, so if you want to see a part 2 to this, let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any suggestions on book videos you want to see in the future, leave them in the comments below. Subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys!